Trying to decide between the Speed Control and the SureStitch Elite, but not sure which one's right for you? Well, let me help you. Hi, and welcome to our product support video on the Speed Control and the SureStitch Elite and how it works with QMX Foundations. In today's video, I'm going to show you what each of these two products does so you can decide which one is right for you, also based on your machine, of course. And I'm going to show you how it works with QMX FD. I'm also going to show you how to install each of these two with the particular machine, and that's going to help you decide which one is right for you. And be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel because we've got a lot of other videos that cover products like our Cutie Breeze that we have here, more on QMX Foundations. There's even a video that's going to go over the features of our SureStitch Elite. So be sure to like and subscribe and click that bell so you never miss an episode. So how do you know whether you should get the Speed Controller or the SureStitch Elite? Well, first, you got to figure out what machine you have and what is compatible with your machine. So if you go to graceframe.com, under Speed Control, you'll see a list of machines, and you do have to order the one that is very specific to the one that it is compatible with. Same for the SureStitch Elite. If you go to graceframe.com and you look up SureStitch Elite, you're going to see a list of machines. And there's a lot more machines that are available for this than there is for the Speed Controller. So what if your machine is compatible with both? Well, that's when you have to make a decision. So the machine we have here is actually compatible with both. So let's just kind of talk about briefly what each is. We're going to start with the Speed Controller. The Speed Controller is basically just that. It is replacing your foot pedal, and it does have a few little extra bells and whistles that your foot pedal may not have depending on the machine that you have. But for starters, there is an on and off switch. So this is what's going to tell your machine that you're ready to sew or not sew, just like when you press down on your foot pedal. There is also a controller for the speed is on here. So instead of adjusting it on your machine, if it's got like a slider or a knob on the machine, or the difference in how much you press on the foot pedal, you adjust it on here instead. There's also, and this is where kind of the bell and whistle will come in, there is a pulse button that's right here. So it will allow you to drop your needle for like that single stitch or when you want to bring up your bobbin thread. And if your machine is compatible and has a thread cutter, there's also a thread cutter button as well, so you don't have to reach around in the machine. So it just puts everything at your fingertips when you're quilting. The SureStitch Elite does all those things, but it's a lot more than just a speed controller. What it's really doing for you, it is turning your domestic machine into a regulated quilting machine. So you have to be specific in your settings, and you get a lot more control of your speed length, how it's registering the movements, because with the other one, you're still in control. You have to get your speed to match how you're moving to do the free motion. This one is providing feedback just like our Kinique long arms do when it's in that regulated mode, and it's adjusting the speed of your needle as you adjust with your movements in the free motion. So it does a lot more for you. It also has, if your machine is compatible, the option to use your thread cutter. It also comes with the upper and lower carriage encoders so that it can read those movements and give you that feedback. And it has some other nifty features as well, which includes giving you some edge control so you know when you're getting close to running out of your quilting space. Installing the Speed Control is really easy. All you have to do is remove the Velcro from one side, choose which handle you want it to be on, so left or right's really up to you. You're going to wrap the Velcro around, putting it back through and tightening it so you have it where you want. The next step is you're going to have two cords. So one of the cords is going to be the one that specifically plugs to your machine and the unit. So there's going to be a place for you to plug that in, and then just wrap this around your handlebars just to keep it out of the way. And then this part plugs in the back of your machine. The other cord that comes with it is for a thread cutter if your machine requires a separate input. There is an additional space here to plug that in, and then this would plug into the back of your machine. This doesn't apply to the machine that we're using, so we won't need the cord. If your machine has a separate slider or knob for controlling the speed of your needle and not just the foot pedal, you're going to slide that or turn it all the way to the highest setting. Next, you want to make sure that your speed control knob is turned all the way down so you're not going too fast when you get started. Then we're just ready to pull up our bobbin and sew. All right, now you're just going to press the on-off button to turn it on to start stitching and adjust your speed control until you get the speed that you like. When I'm done, I just press that same on-off button. If I want to take just 1 or 2 stitches, I can push just once or hold the pulse button if I want a few stitches, and when I'm done, I can use the cutter. To install the SureStitch Elite, you want to make sure that you remove your machine from your frame, and we're going to start by taking off the top carriage. And that's because first step is we've got to put on our encoders, and we're going to do the lower encoder first. You know it's the lower encoder because it's either labeled or it's the one that has the green tag, and that's very important for a later step. So the first thing that you're going to need to do is when you're from the back side, it's your left wheel. When you're facing from the front of the frame, it is your right rear wheel. And there's this little bolt here that you are going to take off with the Allen wrench. On the bolt is also this spacer, so we're going to want to take that spacer off. The bolt we're not going to use again. On your encoder, you want to make sure that this is nice and loose. This little collar here, and your 2.5, if it is tight, is what's going to help you loosen that. And then that little spacer that we took off of the original bolt is just going to slide right on the bolt of your encoder. And then that is going back into that hole, and you're going to screw that back in. We're going to place this back on the frame, and we want to turn our encoder so it is going to be on the outside of the frame. Now this is specific to the QD Breeze, so be sure to read the manual and how to install it on your particular frame. The collar that we loosened, we're going to put so that it is facing up or at 12 o'clock on an analog clock, and we are going to tighten it back with the Allen wrench. And so our lower encoder is on, and it should roll nice and smoothly on your track. If you're using QMX Foundations for domestic machines, you will install the lower encoder on the back left wheel when facing from the front. The assembly instructions are exactly the same as before, just on the opposite wheel, so that it does not interfere with the QMX belts. You'll also want to switch the rails on your QD Breeze so that the front bumper is on the left and the back bumper is on the right. So just like the other encoder, we want to make sure that the collar is loose. And then we're going to remove the wheel that's on the outside, but when you're facing left, when you're from the back right rear wheel. And we're going to take that whole wheel off. And on that bolt, there's also a little spacer. So we're going to take that spacer off. The wheel is going to go on your upper encoder, and then the spacer is going to go on. And that is then getting returned along with the wheel back to where you took that off. And if you want to, you can remove these so you have a better access to your bolt, and you're going to screw that bolt back in. Your encoder is going to want to face between or towards the front of your frame. So between the wheels. Before I tighten it completely, I'm going to put it back on the bottom carriage. Now I'll finish tightening. Again, lock collar, we're going to want that pointing up, and we're going to tighten that in place. And so that should roll nice and smoothly on the bottom carriage. And let's go ahead and plug this back in so we don't forget. The bolt you'll never need again unless you want to save it, but you won't be putting it back on the frame. And now we can put our machine back on. Next, we're going to install the screen on the handle. That whole thing's going to come off, and this is going to go around the handle. And then you're going to just take the bolt and push that through. And just give it a little bit of a squeeze so that you can get the nut back on. And then get it where you want it and finish tightening that up so it's nice and secure on the handle. Note that the SureStitch Elite information is at the bottom, and that lets you know that it is facing the correct direction. Next, we can go ahead and plug in the adapter for the screen. So the small end's going to go in the top here. Just like the other speed control, we're just going to wrap this cord around the handlebar so it's just out of the way. Next, we're going to figure out where we want to put this on our machine, because we're going to actually want to take the sticky off and place it somewhere on the machine where all of the cords are able to reach, but we're not blocking anything important. So we don't want to block vents, or if we have any other buttons or access panels. So if you have to do it sideways or up and down, however you want to put it on the back, on the side, that's up to you. Now mine isn't going to be permanent to this machine, so I've just done a temporary attachment, but I really want to emphasize how important it is that this is nice and stable, and that's why we want you to use the Velcro to attach it to your machine. But like I said, we've got to use this for multiple things, so do as I say, not as I do, okay? All right, so the next thing that I can do is I can take this plug, which is the other side of the screen, and plug it into the control unit. So that's ready to go. We now can plug in our upper and lower encoders, which you'll see, again, you'll have the color coding, so purple to purple and green to green. And you just want to make sure that these are out of the way so that they're not getting in the way of your wheels or anything like that. So you'll have some additional materials that come for you to really kind of tie these guys up so that they're nice and secure and not interfering with your setup. This part is really, really, really important. Make sure that your machine is turned off, and for just extra safety, go ahead and unplug it, because we're going to plug in our SureStitch Elite, and we're going to set up for the first time what machine it needs to be on. So you are going to take your plug and you're going to plug that into the power spot, and then this is going to go into your socket. You should hear it power on, and you should see it powered on here. Under machine settings, this is where you're going to select your sewing machine. When you first turn it on, it hasn't been programmed before, it will actually prompt you to do this, but if you ever switch machines, this will be helpful as well. You start by selecting your brand. And then which machine that you have, so check your manual if it's not listed on there, and select the appropriate model. So that's now calibrated to what machine it is. We're going to go ahead and unplug this again from the power source. Next, we have to figure out which of the cords. So when you open your box and you take off the top part, you're going to see all these cords, and these are going to be the different adapters for the different machines that it is compatible with. So bring over your foot pedal for your machine and find the one that matches it, and then you can double check in the back of your machine that it is in fact the one that works with it. The rest of these cords you won't need, but again, hang on to them because you never know when you decide to get a new machine. Your foot pedal plug is going to plug into this portion here and then into the back of your machine. Additionally, if your machine has a separate spot for a thread cutter, then there is an additional cord that's available for connecting that. This machine does not have that. All right, so again, before you turn on your machine, you're always going to power on your SureStitch Elite. That's very important because it's drawing a lot of power, and for some machines, it will actually cause the machine to start stitching, and that could cause problems. Once your SureStitch Elite is on, go ahead and plug in your machine, and then you can turn it on. So like I said, be sure that you have managed your cables so that they aren't dragging or getting in the way of everything. And now it's just time to set our settings up in the way that we want to quilt. You have a choice of stitch length anywhere from 1 to 10. There's also some presets here. The number is going to correspond with how close together the stitches are. So I'm going to go ahead and set mine at 10. And then I'm on regulated. So the regulated is what's going to slow down with me to keep that stitch length the way that I want it. Just as we did for the speed controller, we want to make sure that our machine is on the highest setting for speed so we can control everything through here. If you are going to be using it with QMX Foundations, be sure to install your SureStitch Elite stuff first, especially the encoders. It'll just be a lot easier to get to those areas before you put on the hardware for the QMX. Now it's time to show you how to use the speed control with QMX Foundations. Basically, since this replaces your foot pedal, you're going to use it the same way as you do a foot pedal. So we're going to start just like we would with the foot pedal by doing a stitch test. So we're going to go to quilt. We're going to pick our line, and we're going to mark the position of where we want this line to go on our practice quilt. We're going to move to start, pull up our bobbin, we're going to go ahead and start like we're going to do sewing by hitting the start countdown and then hitting the on-off button on here and then adjusting the speed until we get the stitch look that we want. All right, so I figured out my speed. Now I would just stitch like I normally would, picking a block, picking a pantograph, whatever. We're just gonna stitch part of a pantograph here and just show you it works the same way. Using the SureStitch Elite with QMX Foundations is very similar to using your speed control, but this is going to give you a few extra features. Most of your stitch regulation is going to come from your QMX, but it will help to kind of slow and speed up that needle for you if you are in the regulated mode, or you can run in manual mode. Which one you choose to use is really what's going to work best for your setup, your machine, your QMX Foundations, and kind of play with that. But just like we did with the speed controller, we're still going to have to do a stitch test. So I'm actually going to start on manual mode just to show you how you would do the stitch test on manual mode. And then I'll also show you on regulated, because you're still going to want to do that to find what size versus what speed is going to work best for you. So that's kind of the differences there. All right, so just like before, we're going to pick a line. We're going to set our start and stop points. We'll move to start, pull up our bobbin. All right, so same concept, you're gonna hit the start stop button on your QMX, and then when you're really close to the 0, we're gonna hit the start button on here. I've currently got it set at 30%, and then I can play in increments of 5% to see what is going to give me my best stitch look for the speed that QMX goes. Right, so that was doing our stitch test for manual mode. Now we're going to put our SureStitch into regulated mode and do the same thing. I'm starting at a stitch length of 8, and again, I can move in increments up or down, or I can use the controls here. With our stitch test done, now we're ready to use our SureStitch Elite in whichever mode we want to select and start quilting. So let's do another pantograph. All right, now you are equipped to decide what is best for you and your setup. Is it going to be the speed control, or is it going to be the SureStitch Elite? And you even know how to use them with QMX Foundations. So please let us know in the comments if you have any more questions, and definitely give us a thumbs up if you found this video useful. Well, I'm going to get back to playing with my new setup. Until next time, see ya.